My neighbor cut down a 100-year-old tree on my property because it was blocking his Wi-Fi signal. I came home from work on a Tuesday around 6 p.m. to find my oak tree, the massive one that's been there since my grandparents built the house in 1920, just gone. Complete destruction. There was nothing left but a stump still smoking from the chainsaw and wood chips scattered across my lawn like confetti at the world's worst party. My neighbor Jeff was in his driveway loading a chainsaw and equipment into his truck bed, wiping sweat off his forehead like he'd just finished some regular weekend project. I stood there for a solid minute, just staring at the empty space where this giant tree used to be, trying to process what I was seeing. I walked over, trying to stay calm even though my hands were shaking, and asked what the hell happened to my tree. He didn't even look guilty or apologetic. He just said the tree was interfering with his new mesh Wi-Fi system, and he'd been getting buffering issues while playing Call of Duty on his Xbox. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him that tree was on my property, clearly over the property line, and it was over a century old. My grandmother used to have tea under that tree every summer. My dad proposed to my mom next to it. That tree had been in my family longer than Jeff had been alive. He just shrugged like I was being dramatic and said it was probably a safety hazard anyway with all those heavy branches hanging over both our yards. He actually expected me to thank him for doing us both a favor. I was absolutely speechless. I called the police immediately, but when they showed up, they said it was a civil property matter and I'd need to handle it through the courts. The officer did take photos and file a report though, which ended up being crucial later, so I started making calls. First, I contacted a certified tree service company for a damage estimate. The guy came out the next day, took one look at the stump, and whistled. He explained that under timber laws in our state, you can't just cut down someone's mature trees without permission. He estimated that specific oak, given its age, size, and species, was worth about $28,000 in replacement value and damages. Then I called an arborist who'd actually documented the tree for the County Historical Society 5 years ago during a heritage tree survey. He had photographs, measurements, and records proving the tree's age and significance. He was furious when I told him what happened and immediately offered to testify. I filed a lawsuit in small claims court with all my evidence. The police report, the tree service estimate, the historical documentation, property survey maps showing the tree was clearly on my land, and even old family photos showing the tree at different stages over the decades. Jeff showed up to court in a Green Bay Packers jersey and jeans, no lawyer, looking completely unprepared. He actually told the judge, "Your Honor, it's just a tree, bro. Trees grow back." The judge, who was probably in her 60s and clearly didn't appreciate being called bro, was not amused at all. She asked him if he had any evidence that the tree was on his property or that he had permission to cut it down. He said no, but insisted his Wi-Fi was really slow before he cut it down and now it works great, like that somehow justified everything. The judge's expression was priceless, pure disbelief. She ruled in my favor for the full $28,000 in damages plus court costs and legal fees. Jeff's face went completely white when she read the judgment amount. He tried to argue that he didn't have that kind of money, but the judge said that wasn't her problem and he should have thought about that before destroying someone else's property. Jeff had to take out a personal loan to pay me, which I heard about through other neighbors. Apparently he'd been bragging about his Wi-Fi upgrade at a neighborhood barbecue right before he got served with the lawsuit. His wife was absolutely mortified. 3 months after the judgment, his wife Jennifer filed for divorce. I ran into her at the grocery store and she apologized profusely for what Jeff had done. She told me this wasn't his first property boundary issue. Apparently at their old house, he'd torn down a neighbor's fence because he thought it was ugly, and they'd had to settle that lawsuit too. She said she was done making excuses for his impulsive decisions and lack of respect for other people. Last week I used some of the settlement money to plant 3 new oak saplings along the property line where the old tree used to be. I went with the same species, northern red oak, from a specialized nursery that sources trees with strong root systems. They'll take 100 years to grow into anything close to what I lost, but I figured it was the right way to honor my family's tree. The best part? Those 3 new trees are positioned perfectly to block Jeff's Wi-Fi signal even worse than the original tree did once they start growing. His mesh system is already struggling with the interference from the saplings. I can see him outside sometimes, holding his phone up, trying to find a signal. He moved out 2 months ago after the divorce was finalized.